It's no secret that Manchester United are a club in decline. Whilst they haven't fallen quite as far as other former giants like Nottingham Forest or Leeds, they've only won 5 trophies in the last 10 years, and those include neither the Premier League nor the Champions League. Whilst the Rooney and Ronaldo years were a fairly recent, fairly high watermark for the club, it's been far more than a decade since the real glory years. The release of the docu-series 99 earlier this year, marking the 25th anniversary since United's infamous treble. So we'll be trying to restore Manchester United to their former glory in today's video, rebuilding the club over the course of 5 seasons and trying to win it all again. So winning a treble is the primary goal for new manager Ruben Amorim, but it's not his only goal. We'll also be looking to disperse City's Manchester monopoly by finishing above them in 3 out of the 5 seasons, and we'll be looking to find the next England superstar. 1999 was, of course, the time when David Beckham was really bursting onto the scene, not only for United, but for the national team as well, scoring his first ever England goal in the 98 World Cup the year before. These days, the England squad is packed with superstars like Bellingham, Foden, Palmer, Saka and Kane, whilst United's biggest contributor has been Harry Maguire, and we'll be trying to achieve all of that whilst fighting against the United tax, which is still alive and well. So we can't buy any players for less than 150% of their market value, and we can't sell any players for more than 50% of their market value. Now, most of this rebuild will be simulated, but we'll also be jumping into some important games along the way. And when we do, I'll be using the most recent edition of my custom realistic slider set. So as we pick things up at the live start point here in December, we actually find ourselves in 6th position in the Premier League rather than 9th. And that's because we managed a 3-1 victory away at Arsenal, where United lost 2-0 in real life. So with January only a month away, we do already need to consider how we're going to be approaching the transfer market. This is the squad that we're going with for now, and we won't be looking to overhaul the squad in January. We'll be saving that until the summer. But for now, we could look to add a starting centre-back and potentially even an attacking midfielder. I think poaching somebody like Diamandi from Sporting, Ruben Amorim's former club, could be a useful strategy. We've seen Jarrad Branthwaite linked with Manchester United in recent years, and potentially Mark Gahey could be on his way out of Selhurst Park, given their poor start to the season. And there's a range of different directions we could go in terms of attacking midfielders too. But I think our best strategy early on is going to be bringing in youngsters who we can send out on loan immediately and hopefully watch them grow and become a big part of the squad a little further down the line. We're likely also going to be looking to move on from a number of players this season. Casemiro, Rashford, Antony, all on the transfer list for this January. And we have a number of players on expiring contracts who we are likely to let go this year, including Harry Maguire, Johnny Evans, Victor Lindelof, Christian Eriksen, and Antony is only valued at 9 million, so the maximum we can accept from Galatasaray is 4.5. And I am looking to hold on to Mason Mount for the time being at the very least, and we don't want to be selling Marcus Rashford to a rival like Chelsea, but I think we could let him go to Aston Villa. But with a valuation of 23.5 million, the maximum we can accept is a bid in the region of 11. So Marcus Rashford and Antony do both leave the club here in January, but that does pave the way for the arrival of Ousmane Diamandi. Amorim knows the 21-year-old centre-back from his time at Sporting, and with both Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans on expiring contracts, we certainly need to look to the future at the centre-back position. So Diamandi slots in alongside De Ligt and Martinez to form a centre-back trio that we're hoping sees us through the full 5 years of the rebuild. But I think that'll be the only business that we do here in January, and the bulk of our squad overhaul will be taking place in the summer. Today's video is sponsored by Enigma Football, the UK's leading supplier of football shirt mystery boxes just like this one. Enigma stock a wide range of football shirts from clubs from the Big 5 European leagues, from lesser known teams around the world, and even from national teams as well. And you can be 100% certain that their shirts are authentic because they get them straight from the clubs and the manufacturers directly. Their mystery boxes start at just $34.99, and they can be as random or as customized as you like. Of course, you need to specify your shirt size, but you can also let Enigma know if there are any teams or leagues you would like to avoid, if there are any colors or designs that you would prefer, or you can just leave it entirely up to Enigma to choose for you. Enigma had a very good idea of what team I would like to receive, so they sent me this season's Crystal Palace shirt. This exact shirt on the Crystal Palace website would have cost me £60. But if you receive it in a mystery box, you get it almost half that price. And you can knock that price down even further by using code LAMSY at the checkout for a 10% discount on all first orders, including the first month of a mystery box subscription package. So if you're on the lookout for a Christmas gift for the diehard football fan in your life, or if you just want a fun and affordable way to expand your own shirt collection, check out Enigma Football. The link is in the description, and be sure to use code LAMSY at the checkout for 10% off your first order. Shout out to Enigma Football for sponsoring. Now let's get back to the video. So Diomande does end up being the only player to arrive at Old Trafford, and we did have to pay 45 million to secure the transfer thanks to that United tax. And as we approach the final month of the season, a horrific run of form in April means we've got very little left to play for. Hoffenheim have just knocked us out of the Europa League 3-0 on aggregate. Liverpool beat us 10-9 in a dramatic penalty shootout in round 4 of the Carabao Cup, and we made it to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup only to be knocked out by Chelsea, which means we have just 4 games remaining in the Premier League to rescue our season. We're currently on the outside looking in terms of a place in Europe next year. So we need to put 3 points on the board as we travel to the GTEC to take on Brentford. We only managed to grab a draw, and we get the same result against West Ham, only a draw. We do manage a win against Chelsea in our penultimate game of the season, however, which leaves us just one final game against Aston Villa to get to. Our hopes of European football next season absolutely disappearing with that 2-1 defeat. So at the end of season 1, we have disappointing campaigns in all of the cup competitions, and we finish in 7th position in the Premier League. Arsenal finally getting it over the line to become champions. Captain Fantastic Bruno Fernandes had a really good year. He scored 25 goals and picked up 11 assists along the way as well. 14 goals for Højlund. It's not a terrible tally, but he certainly needs to step it up if he's going to be our true number 9 here in the rebuild. Amad Diallo got 10 goals and 3 assists. 9 and 5 for Mason Mount is decent. 8 and 6 for Garnacho. Xerxes popped up with 8 goals as well. But it's the blue side of Manchester that's at the top of the scoring and assist charts. Jack Grealish was number 1 in goals and number 4 in assists. Phil Foden number 4 in goals and number 2 in assists. So 2 top 5 players in both categories for Man City. But here in season 2 is where the rebuild is really going to begin. We're going to continue to get rid of the dead wood like Christian Eriksen, like Jadon Sancho. Diogo Dalot and Lenny Yoro have each, unfortunately, submitted a transfer request. But we can replace Yoro immediately with Mark Gahey, who finally gets his big money move away from Selhurst Park. He arrives for a fee of £45 million, and Malik Tillman also arrives for a fee of £40 million. Ryan Ait-Nouri will immediately replace Diogo Dalot for £45 million. So Gay will find a place on the bench to begin this season, but Ait-Nouri and Tillman will go straight into the starting lineup. And we will be sticking with Rasmus Højlund for Season 2. But in case neither he nor Joshua Xerxes work out, we'll be bringing in Mustafa Hekimoglu, an 18-year-old striker from Turkey who looks to have a very, very bright future ahead of him. And we're also planning for the future through the Youth Academy. We've promoted a number of really good-looking young prospects, none more so than Bobby Dickinson, who could well help us to achieve that target of finding the next great England superstar. But it's all about the first team for now as we take on a new look and newly promoted Leeds United in our opening Premier League game of Season 2. Malik Tillman got off to an absolute flyer, collecting the ball from Bruno Fernandes, skipping past the Leeds defender and firing past the keeper for a debut goal to make it 1-0 early. And there's a lot of pressure on the shoulders of Rasmus Højlund this season, and he needs to finish a lot better than this if he's going to live up to expectation. We had a few chances to double our lead throughout the game, but it would ultimately be up to Andre Onana to ensure that we managed to come away with the victory. And with 7 points from our opening 3 fixtures, we got off to a much better start here in Ruben Amorim's first full season in charge. And it's not ideal, but we did actually make Europe via the Conference League. But after a great start to the season, we have dropped away once more down to 7th position in the league. We are still very much in range of those European places, but we are certainly not in range to finish above Manchester City. And Liverpool, for the second season straight, knocked us out of the Carabao Cup in the quarterfinals on penalties. We are, however, in very good shape to progress to the next round of the Europa Conference League, however. But with less than 23 million left in the bank, we're really going to have to rely on the current squad to get us over the line here in Season 2. We have managed to move on from Luke Shaw, but that only adds 11 million to the budget. This United tax is really taxing. And with Bruno Fernandes in the last year of his deal and refusing to sign a new contract, we've lost him to Chelsea for absolutely nothing. He'll be joining our rivals in the summer. So although we do now have 35 million in the bank, I think it's best to carry that budget forward to next season, where we're going to have to spend a big chunk of money replacing Bruno. We've had a similarly disappointing Season 2, finishing down in 8th position, way off the pace for a European place. Manchester City back atop of the Premier League, so we're certainly not finishing above them for the second season in a row. Liverpool knocked us out of the Carabao Cup, and it was an embarrassing departure at the hands of Coventry in just round 4 of the FA Cup. We did see big development from Højlund this year, though, up to an 81 overall. He scored 27 goals this season, which is a huge improvement. We need him to keep up that pace. We're going to be losing 37 total goal contributions from our best player, Bruno Fernandes, this summer, though. Amad Diallo scored 22 goals of his own, 12 for Garnacho as well. 2 players who are in the running to potentially replace Bruno Fernandes in attack and midfield. 19 goal contributions from Mason Mount as well. And after getting off to an absolute flyer in his debut, Malik Tillman finished with only 3 goals. Now, one saving grace here in Season 2 is that we have booked a place in the final of the Europa Conference League against Valencia, so we could well be back in the Europa League in Season 3, despite a poor finish in the Premier League. Despite a strong start in the game, it was Valencia that took the lead through Javi Guerra, a strike from outside the box, catching Onana out. And our night went from bad to worse moments later when Ugarte got sent off for this incredibly late challenge on the Valencia midfielder. But despite being a man down, we did rally in the game. Bruno Fernandes slipped it through for Rasmus Højlund to equalise on the stroke of half-time. But Valencia were too good in the second period, and 5 minutes into the second half, they did have their lead once more. And as we pushed for an equaliser, Valencia were simply able to exploit the gaps that we left in behind. And that was that. Valencia, Europa Conference League champions. Manchester United almost certainly out of Europe next season. And as we enter Season 3, we're going to have to make some big moves in the transfer market, not only to finally get this rebuild on track, but also to replace the ever-present Bruno Fernandes, who leaves on a free transfer for Chelsea. However, we're barely 70 million in the bank this season, and the United tax in full effect. We're really going to have to work hard to add any players of real quality to the squad this year. We are, however, seeing some good progress from the youngsters out on loan. Alberto Cordoba's up to a 73 already at just 19 years of age. It's just a right back, though. Song-Soo Ma is up to a 70. Bobby Dickinson has gone out on loan for this season as well. But we are going to need a true difference maker to replace Bruno Fernandes, because Garnacho, Mason Mount, Malik Tillman, they're just not going to cut it. It is also going to be Højlund's final season to prove that he can be the out-and-out striker going forward as well. But the one signing that we are making for this summer will be Enzo Mio, the young Stuttgart attacking midfielder. He's a massive 83 overall at just 23 years of age, should fit straight into the squad, and should be a decent enough Bruno Fernandes replacement in the short term. With the United tax, he did set us back 52 million, but to be fair, even that is a price that I'm happy to pay. So he'll slot right into the lineup alongside Garnacho, just behind Rasmus Højlund, as we set out here in Season 3. We got off to a flyer in this one. Rasmus Højlund picking up where he left off last season. And Enzo Mio, too, like Malik Tillman a year earlier, also got off to a quick start. But it was our defensive line that was the concern, once more being exposed for ultimately what would turn out to be a late Sheffield United consolation goal. And it continues to be our defence that is letting us down, but in spectacular fashion now, as we find ourselves all the way down in 16th position in the Premier League, having conceded the second most goals. And with barely 33 million left in the budget for the season, I think we have to rely on the squad that we've already got to turn things around. So we are going to be switching to a back four for the remainder of the season. This season has been another almost unmitigated disaster. Manchester City are going to win the Premier League again by the looks of it, though Newcastle and Aston Villa are still in with a chance. We've turned things around over the second half of the season. However, that has seen us climb only up to 9th place in the Premier League. We got knocked out of the Carabao Cup in the 4th round, 2-0 by Liverpool. Liverpool would go on to lose in the final 4-3 to Bournemouth, though. And we have a chance to double Liverpool's misery as we will be taking them on in the FA Cup final. So this could potentially be our way back into Europe finally. So we will go out in the 4-2-3-1 for our first trip to Wembley Stadium in the rebuild. We absolutely dominated the first half, but we had to rely on a mistake from Liverpool at the back to finally break the deadlock through Amad Diallo. We were in control in the second period too, and it looked as though Rasmus Højlund was surely going to double our lead. Somehow he put it wide from 10 yards out. And you know exactly what that means. We failed to capitalize on our chances. Liverpool did not fail to capitalise on theirs. They equalised 80 minutes in, and then 2 minutes later, after having been dominated for the entirety of the game up to that point, they grab another late one to make it 2-1. And that was how the game finished. So we make another final, but again, we failed to get it over the line. So not only do we fail to put a trophy in the cabinet, but we're not going to be in Europe again next season. So we're really running out of time here. 3 seasons in, we're not in Europe in season 4. So it's going to have to be a domestic treble if we're going to achieve that objective next season. If not, we're going to have to go all in for season 5. But I'm really just starting to think that United are a cursed club. David Moyes, Ralf Rangnick, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Erik ten Hag. It's not like United haven't had good managers, managers with winning records, managers even with championships to their name, yet we continue to perform like a mid-table club. 9th in the Premier League, runners-up in the FA Cup, round 4 of the Carabao Cup, no European competition. It's getting embarrassing at this point. One thing we can do heading into season 4 though is replace our goalkeeper. Our defensive record has been awful. The switch to the back 4 made it slightly better, but Andre Onana is just not reliable enough, as good as a shot stopper as he is. And the man to come in to replace him will be a world-class keeper if there ever was one. Unai Simon arrives from Bayer Leverkusen for a massive fee of £70 million. So it's a significant sum of money to pay, but he certainly should be worth it. And with his contract set to expire this season, Mazraoui joins Brighton for 10 million, and we feel comfortable letting Mazraoui walk because Alberto Cordoba, the first youth academy product, is going to take his place in the first team. 77 overall at just 20 years of age with 89 pace. He should fit right in. And at long last, we managed to finish in a European place. Here in season 4, we finish in the top 4 and book a place in the Champions League for next season. So the treble is on. Rasmus Højlund had another decent, if not world-class season, scoring 20 goals. Garnacho came up with 12 and 4 assists, 11 and 8 for Amad Diallo. Tillman with 6 goals and 2 assists. Kobbie Mainoo with 4 and 4 from midfield. And Enzo Mio had a disappointing campaign with just 3 goals and a single assist. Unai Simon had anything but a disappointing campaign though, being bested only by David Raya in terms of clean sheets. And he really did turn things around at the back for us. We conceded just 48 goals and we have almost 40 million in the transfer budget to carry forward to season 5, where we're going to be going all in. So that means we have almost 160 million to spend here at the start of season 5. And after the sales of Diomande, Ahmad and Xerxes, our budget rises to a grand total of 212 million, which is going to allow us to bring in some big signings this summer, including the big man himself, the masked assassin, Victor Osimhen. He arrives for a whopping 130 million on 300,000 a week, and is going to immediately supplant Rasmus Højlund, who hasn't been world-class. Victor Osimhen certainly is. And it's also going to allow us to bring in the pacey and technical wide midfielder Francisco Conceição. We needed a replacement for Amad Diallo on the right-hand side, and we've not only got a replacement, but an upgrade. So he'll slot straight into the starting lineup with Garnacho on the opposite side, Enzo Mio and Victor Osimhen ahead of them. And we should be all set here for season 5 to finally try and win that treble. But this is our squad for the 5th and final season of the rebuild. We've got Unai Simon in goal, a back 4 of Alberto Cordoba, the youth academy product, De Ligt, Martinez, and Aït-Nouri. We've got Ugarte and Mainu as the double pivot. Conceição and Garnacho with Milo and Osimhen ahead of them. Got decently strong bench as well. Another Youth Academy product in goal. We've got Malacia still. We've got Mark Gahey. We've got another right back from the Youth Academy on the bench as well. We've still got Mason Mount, Malik Tillman, Song Sumar, I believe is his name. Dickinson hasn't progressed anywhere near as much as we had liked, so we're certainly not going to be finding that future England superstar. And Rasmus Højlund is, of course, going to come off the bench this season as well. And everything was finally starting to click in this game. Victor Osimhen opening the scoring just 5 minutes in after a loose ball fell to him in the box, and he turned and hit it first time. And Osimhen's second was assisted by the young right back who found him in the penalty area, and Osimhen fired this time with his right to make it 2-0. And everything was clicking until it wasn't. Bournemouth with a free kick pulled one back and then grabbed a second to make it 2-2 before half-time. It's clear to see that our defending still hasn't improved, and it looked as though despite our domination, we were only going to come away with a point until Song Sumar did this in the 86th minute. He sent the home fans into raptures, and it did look like we were going to come away with all 3 points on opening day after all. But just in case that result looked in any doubt, Victor Osimhen bullied his way through the Bournemouth defence to grab a late goal of his own and secure not only the victory, but also his hat-trick. 3 goals on his debut for the big man. And with Victor Osimhen leading the line for the first time in a long time, we actually have an opportunity to get one over on Man City. And you could tell confidence was high heading into this one. We got off to a great start, looked really positive going forward. And Victor Osimhen almost opened the scoring. His initial header went wide, but when Conceição found him on the edge of the box, he forced a save from the City keeper for the first time. But unfortunately, not everybody would rise to the occasion. The occasion was actually too much for Cordoba, who got sent off for this rash challenge on Bolde. But from there, it was a clinic of how to play with a man disadvantage. Enzo Mio opening the scoring with a little help from the City deflection. Mio then found the run of Victor Osimhen in behind, and with so much time, he was never going to miss before another new boy rounded out the victory with a goal late on. Francisco Conceição making it 3. So the halfway point of the season, we are 3 points clear of Arsenal at the top of the Premier League. We are unfortunately out of the Carabao Cup, having lost 6-5 on penalties to Brentford. However, the treble is on. The FA Cup hasn't really started yet, but we are currently due to progress to the knockout stages of the Champions League. However, as the calendar ticks over into January, we don't have any money to spend because we spent 200 million on Osimhen and Conceição earlier in the season. So unfortunately, we do simply have to allow deadline day to tick away with no additional business. As we approach the home stretch here in the final season of the rebuild, it is crunch time. We have a rematch against Manchester City, this time in the quarterfinal of the FA Cup, as well as a trip to the Emirates to take on Arsenal, who are currently just a point behind us in the Premier League with 9 games to play. So for the time being, at least, the treble hangs almost entirely on the outcome of the next 2 games. And the dream is over. We lose 3-1 to Manchester City in the FA Cup. So we won't be winning a treble here in Season 5. We could still win the Premier League and the Champions League double. That does, of course, depend on overcoming Arsenal at the Emirates. And we managed to do exactly that. Victor Osimhen with another goal. What a start to his Manchester United career he's had. It takes Osimhen up to 14 goals, which is particularly impressive considering we've had to keep him fresh. We've been rotating him with Højlund in the Premier League, so he's played just 21 games. And with just 5 games left to play, we are 2 points ahead of Arsenal at the top of the league. We do have a game in hand, however, and we have made it through to the semi-finals of the Champions League. Arsenal still in the competition, but we will be taking on Real Madrid. So it could be a 2-horse race, not only in the Premier League, but it could be the same 2-horse race in the Champions League as well. Once again, though, that does depend upon us getting a result in the first leg, hosting Real Madrid at Old Trafford, and we do come away with the win. It's Victor Osimhen who grabs the opening goal for us in the first half, but it's actually an equaliser after Zaire Emery kicks things off in the 26th minute. And look who's popped up with a winner. It's none other than Bobby Dickinson on his debut for Manchester United. Comes up with the winner against Real Madrid. We said earlier in the video, we haven't found the next England superstar, but potentially we have. Potentially we're just a little bit early. Dickinson just 21 years of age. This was a 10-year rebuild. Perhaps we achieve that objective as well. I'm tempted to start Dickinson for the second leg at the Bernabeu, but he's going to have to come off the bench again if he is going to make a difference. And it's a 3-2 win for Real Madrid over the course of the 90. That makes it a 4-4 aggregate result over the course of the 2 legs. And we progress to the final with a 5-3 victory on penalties. Pedro Porro missing the crucial penalty for Real Madrid. And the new boy, Consensao, scoring the winning goal. And indeed, it will be Arsenal, our opponents in the final of the Champions League. We do still have to make it over the finish line in the Premier League, though. We have 4 games remaining there. Home against Fulham, a trip to the Etihad, home against West Ham, a trip to Elland Road. So victories in the next 2 games pretty much lock up the Premier League title. But we failed to get it done against Fulham, only coming away with a point thanks to a last minute, or a last gasp at the very least, equaliser from Enzo Mio. So faltering slightly, but a win in the Manchester derby still puts us in a very commanding position. And again, we fail to come away with that win. A 2-2 draw once again. Once more thanks to a late equaliser from Enzo Mio. So failing to win either of those games does mean the Premier League will go down to the final game of the season. And it's absolutely essential we come away with all 3 points here against West Ham, and we do. Enzo Mio on the score sheet yet again. And a brace from Victor Osimhen secures victory. So as we head into the final game of the Premier League season against Leeds, we are in pole position. Chelsea do have a better goal difference than us, so we can't afford to lose the game. But a draw would get it done. And that looks to be the way the game will finish as we enter 3 minutes of added time. Just got to hang on a little longer. But even if we concede at the death here, after a good block from De Ligt, even if we concede at the death, the Premier League will still be ours. Chelsea would be 4 points behind us with no possibility of overtaking us on the final game of the season. A loss would have meant Chelsea could take the title with a victory of their own. But it looks like we are going to be champions here finally at the end of season 5. It's been a torrid time in the Premier League for us over the course of the rebuild, and there it is. We are at Elland Road. I assume they've brought the Premier League trophy with them. Bobby Dickinson did come on at the end. He looked dangerous, to be fair. He almost grabbed the winning goal himself before Tillman grabbed it in the 89th minute. But we do see celebrations on the field as the Premier League title, for the first time in I can't remember how long, has been secured for the red side of Manchester. Lisandro Martinez, the new Manchester United captain, lifts the Premier League trophy. That's step 1 of our treble, now double quest complete. Now on to the Champions League final. So a quick look at the final standings and stats before we jump into the final game of the rebuild. We do finish top of the Premier League table, 3 points ahead of Arsenal, who beat Aston Villa 2-0 in their final game of the season. Chelsea bottled it. They only drew 2-2 with Everton. We did get knocked out in the quarter-final of the FA Cup, 3-1 at the hands of Manchester City, and Liverpool go on to lift the trophy 3-1 over Rotherham, who somehow made the final. We did, of course, only make the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup as well, losing to Brentford on penalties. And it's Manchester City who go on to win that competition. Victor Osimhen has had an incredible first season at United. He got 24 goals and 5 assists in his 41 games this season. We need one final push from him in the Champions League final. Garnacho finished with 22 goals and 7 assists. Excellent season for him as well. Kobbie Mainoo with surely a career high of 15 goals, 8 assists to the tally as well. Enzo Mio has been a sensation since joining. I was really anxious about losing Bruno Fernandes to Chelsea, but Mio has been a more than sufficient replacement. 27 goal involvements for him, 20 goal involvements for Conceição, 15 for Højlund, 10 even for Alberto Cordoba from right back, including 7 goals. And it may not be the treble that we were hoping for, but we will certainly take a double. So without further ado, let's head over to the Arena auf Schalke to take on Arsenal in the Champions League final and the culmination of this 5-year rebuild. We forced a number of big saves from David Raya in the first period as we piled the pressure on Arsenal. Arsenal had a handful of opportunities on the counter-attack, but really other than that, they could not get into the game. And it was only the first half performance from David Raya that kept them in it. A number of big saves, his best being this one at the very end of the first half. But Arsenal came out with renewed vigour in the second half and actually opened the scoring through Bukayo Saka. And as David Raya continued to make save after save, it looked as though those first half opportunities were ultimately going to be squandered. But when Arsenal made a defensive error, Garnacho capitalised, forcing yet another save from David Raya, and the substitute Rasmus Højlund was on point to tap it home for an equaliser. But unfortunately, the lead lasted only 2 minutes. Lewis Openda absolutely cooked De Ligt and fired past Unai Simon. But then Arsenal's lead lasted only 3 minutes. Rasmus Højlund grabbing a second goal off the bench after fellow substitute Malik Tillman set him up. And then in the 89th minute, Malik Tillman dribbled past 4 Arsenal defenders, squared it for Rasmus Højlund, who grabbed a hat-trick off the bench. He sent the travelling United fans into an absolute frenzy because we only needed to hang on for injury time to secure the Champions League trophy. So as Arsenal get the game restarted, we have a 3-2 lead. There are seconds on the clock of the regulation 90. There's probably going to be a fairly substantial chunk of injury time thanks to the number of goals in this second half. It's been an absolutely frantic end-to-end second period. After the first half, disappointed somewhat. We were certainly disappointed with the first half because we dominated. We were in control. Arsenal couldn't hang with us as Bobby Dickinson comes away on the right-hand side. Halted by Calafiori though, but he turns him inside out and continues. And we can take it into the corner. Or we can try and find Rasmus Højlund for a fourth. Højlund gets the shot away. It's blocked. I really wanted a Bobby Dickinson winner, but we'll certainly take a Rasmus Højlund one instead. 4 minutes of injury time, 2 of which have elapsed already. And we are into the final minute of the Champions League final. And that's a great challenge from Martinez, allowing Ait Nouri to find Unai Simon. And Song-Soo Ma on the left-hand side can whittle away the final seconds of the clock. The referee blows his final whistle. And the travelling United fans in Germany have seen their team come away. It says we only got 2 goals there. I promise you we've got 3. Come away with the Champions League trophy to add it to the Premier League trophy and complete a European double. It's not the treble that we were hoping for, but compared to where Manchester United are in real life at the moment, we've come a long, long way. There's Cordoba once more. Incidentally, I have just finished watching Manchester United come from a goal down to beat Manchester City 2-1 in the dying moments of the Manchester derby. So it kind of feels like they're on a high right now, but certainly not the high of a double. So Martinez once more will lift the trophy. We've fallen short of our objectives, but still very much feels like a win. Very much feels like a successful rebuild. And we are certainly leaving Manchester United in a better place than when we inherited them. So that'll do it for this video. Hope to see you in the next one. Take it easy.